Welcome into a Thursday edition of Golic and Golic. We did it, Joe, Shane, as the Giants finalize the deals to make John Harbaugh their next head coach. How quickly can he change the fortunes in an NFC East that feels up for grabs despite its first back-to-back winner since the Bush administration? And Hall of Fame quarterback Jim Kelly joins the show to tell us if Josh Allen has enough of that super serum left in the tank for another heroic performance against the one-seed Broncos on the road at Mile High Stadium. And with 1 day left for Portal Madness and a national championship game on the way, we're going to talk to Andy Staples from On3 about how the Canes can pull the upset heading into a big game on Monday night. We welcome you guys into Golic and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr. here with you today. Going to be a fun one all over the board, but got to start with Mana from Heaven. I woke up to text in a group chat from one of my Giants friends about the manna from heaven that had been dropped to them. Maybe the best moment I saw Dan Orlovsky say it on ESPN since the Giants won the Super Bowl for this franchise, as it was announced and reported by ESPN's Adam Schefter that they're finalizing the deal to bring John Harbaugh in after his 18-year tenure with the Baltimore Ravens. Reportedly, as we expect, Jaxson Dart, a huge selling point in this process here. The questions apparently answered about Joe Schoen and what his impact or appeal would be in this process. So for the Giants now, Dad, just how much can John Harbaugh's presence change quickly for this organization?
Well, obviously, it's been an organization that's been losing. So you change the culture, right? John Harbaugh is like a CEO. Right, he's going to have an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator. He's not going to call plays on either side of the ball. He is kind of running the program. He is sitting in the CEO chair of this team and leading it. So that's what he's going to dictate. We'll see how many coaches he actually brings over from Baltimore on his new staff. But that's what he's responsible for. He's well respected. He'll be instantly respected by all the players. I would imagine so. And again, what does he look for? Ownership, quarterback, players, great left tackle, potentially great pass rushing defensive line. 5th pick in the draft. They don't have a 3rd rounder. Could they move some things around and get one? They have cap space, $20 million cap space. They could double that with off-season cuts, $100 million at this point for the following year. So all those things you kind of throw into the well and say, okay, this is a good opportunity. But it kind of, that's all weighted, and having your quarterback, I think, is a key component.
No question. And to your point about the coordinators and how that mixes into all this, a lot of people assuming Todd Monken might make the trip over to MetLife with John Harbaugh from the Raiders after finishing up his stint with him there, which I think would be incredible for Jaxson Dart's development. When you look at not only Todd's history with quarterbacks who do have mobility the way Dart was, we know the conversation this year became all about how much of a governor do you put on that, especially with the head injury stuff that comes into play. But it's a defined part of his skill set. It's a major advantage. And Todd Monken is someone in the past who's been able to make great use of that with his quarterbacks. But also you look at the way he helped Lamar Jackson unlock that next level as a passer, right? When the Harbaughs each finish up their respective tenures with Greg Roman, as seems tradition at this level of the sport, the criticisms for Lamar Jackson and that Baltimore Ravens passing attack were it had not advanced beyond a certain point and given Lamar Jackson the opportunities to impact the game the way we saw him do in the last couple seasons. So I think that's probably the best sell for Jaxson Dart is, yeah, you're not only going to have the run stuff mixed in there, but you're going to have potentially a coordinator with a very recent proven track record of helping one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL become even better.
And how quickly do you turn it around, right? You saw Ben Johnson go to Chicago and boom, they're in the divisional round of the playoffs. So owners see that and the expectations are high. Going to be tough for the Giants. Over the last 5 years, both offensively and defensively, they struggle. Winning percentage, 31st in the league. Points per game, 30th. Opponents' points per game, 27th. Yards per game, 29th. Opponents' yards per game, 30th. So they have some talent issues on that team. How quickly can it get straightened out? Not only through the draft, obviously, but free agency as well. But owners see quick turnarounds with other teams, and the expectation is, well, we're going to have a quick turnaround as well. Ben Johnson did it with a former number one pick in Caleb Williams. Jaxson Dart, a high pick as well. And people like the way he plays. Now, I've heard people say they expect the Giants to be in the playoffs next year. I don't know about that. I think that would be a heck of a leap. Though you can build quicker now in the NFL, I think that might be a little bit too much of a jump. May take them a little more time than that.
Well, I would say this. The advantage you have is right now the NFC East, we can call it very conservatively in flux. Like Philadelphia won the division in back-to-back years, but didn't look great for a lot of this season. And that was borne out in the postseason. Washington's going over major changes with both coordinators there as they hope to get Jaden Daniels back healthy. The Dallas Cowboys are always going to be an incredible amalgamation of talent. We'll see if they can get that to a team that actually challenges for the postseason. So there's opportunity. And what I think Ben Johnson showed you is, while he did this for someone that was a first-time head coach, had a clear vision for what he wanted to remake, right? They shock dropped the offensive line and brought in everybody new there and built that as the foundation that's been the thing that drove this team forward. And with John Harbaugh, that's, I think, the big difference that you expect from someone with the level of experience he does is he's going to come in right away and know what he wants and how he wants it done. And that makes life so much easier for the players involved in that process here. The hires are going to matter, and you brought up a lot of the numbers from last year. Yeah, we can talk about the offense, which I think gets better right away when you get a guy like Malik Neighbors back, the second-year jump, hopefully, for Jaxson Dart. But you're going to need help on the offensive line, and then defensively, where they go from there to turn that group of talent in the front seven into a defense that can produce on a lot higher level. And I see a bunch of names out here that people get brought up. Obviously, Zach Orr could follow John Harbaugh from Baltimore after his tenure there. Denard Wilson from the Titans, but a really interesting one. Jim Leonard, the passing game coordinator for the Broncos, who was a coordinator in college at Wisconsin, played on John Harbaugh's original Ravens team back in 2008, and is looked at, I think, by a lot of people as one of those guys up and coming. Like, you got to fix the defense there as much as anything if you want to get it to a level where you can even be competitive. Because Ben Johnson did it in a far tougher division in the NFC North, one that did take a step back this year that allowed them that opportunity. But the NFC East does appear volatile enough to where that's probably still outside of where my expectation would be. But I can understand looking at that landscape why Giants fans might feel juiced.
Yeah, I would agree. Washington, ton of injuries, including their quarterback. We know Dallas has their issues, and so does Philly. So you're right. The division definitely works in the favor of a quicker rebuild, and you're also right. John Harbaugh steps in, will not be questioned about anything because, quite honestly, his staff's probably going to be guys he's all worked with before, just as close as last year. For a lot of them. So, yeah, the expectation of him changing colors from purple to blue and seeing results could be quicker. Again, I'm a little hesitant on playoffs, but from your point of view, what you said, the division certainly makes it more possible.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, Pete Carroll from this last year is a great cautionary tale, right?
Yeah.
You can think you've got a million good things ironed out, and if you don't have the lines of scrimmage really set on both sides, and for the Giants, it'll specifically be making sure that offensive line can take the next step, then it might not amount to a hill of beans. But at the very least now, John Harbaugh, the head coach of the Giants, we'll wait and see the numbers of that, seeing some rumblings out there, but want it to be official before we report anything there. You'd expect him to be in the $19 to $20 million range among the high end, I think him. And now as we turn the page, maybe Kevin Stefanski and some of the other ones in line for that. So the Giants' job off the board with John Harbaugh, kind of the pairing that made the most sense when we originally started to stack this up next. Is this as simple as now Kevin Stefanski gets to line up and take the job that he wants, or is the game changed enough between now and the time that John Harbaugh got into the mix that you see it differently?
No, I think Stefanski is next in line, and it'll probably be, again, to a team that has a quarterback in Atlanta, a Tennessee type of a team. So I do think the dominoes will start to fall. Again, there were only a couple of teams that thought they were going to get John Harbaugh. He was going to talk to Tennessee, never did. Talk to Atlanta, not in person, but did talk to him. And those we thought were the three teams that would be involved with him because they kind of met the criteria. So, yeah, I think while there's a lot of names out there, I do think Stefanski is the next one to fall.
Yeah, and he's another one where it was a coach that, hey, maybe, you throw the coaching of the year awards that were outside and just say, hey, good coach, adverse circumstances, the Browns of it all, and you move on there. So if we're going to draw this out on the board and start connecting the pieces of yarn on the corkboard, which of the teams that we've mentioned do you think is most likely to lead Kevin Stefanski? And what's the best job available next, I guess, if you are Stefanski now sitting in that top seat?
Well, I mean, again, you look at the quarterback position, right? So is it Baltimore, right, that has Lamar Jackson, who they're gonna redo his deal? He's not going to be a $75 million cap hit. You just look at those teams and you realize Atlanta has an injured quarterback coming back. Tennessee has a former number one pick coming back in his second year. Are you set on Shedeur Sanders? Are you going to make a move? What's with Tua in Miami? Pittsburgh as well. Certainly Vegas needs a quarterback. So I think really it's Atlanta, it's Tennessee, but the next team would be of what they have. They have a great roster, which didn't really turn out to be able to do a whole lot, and that was Baltimore. They certainly had some injuries, but they have that quarterback. They have a running back, even though he's getting older. They have more pieces of the puzzle than other teams. So I would think that would be the next the next building block for a coach that's going to be next in line.
Yeah, and I think this will be interesting now because we talked about how the rest of the field is probably waiting to see what Harbaugh's decision was there. We still have the Matt LaFleur Green Bay situation that we talked about yesterday kind of hanging out there in the ether, because if you're Baltimore, now you're right. If we're going to draw a line from, hey, the next best candidate on paper to the best job left on paper, it would be Kevin Stefanski walking out of the division in the Cleveland and walking right into that situation in Baltimore.
I agree, and I the Green Bay situation, my thought is if they were going to do something, they'd have done it, right? I mean, what are you waiting on? I mean, what are you thinking about? I mean, you've had a whole season and then a loss, obviously, at the end of the year to decide what you want to do. I don't know what you're contemplating unless you're haggling over money on an extension that maybe you don't want to pay. But you think if you weren't going to want to pay him, you were going to get rid of him. I don't think they're getting rid of him because I think they would have done it already.
You would hope that's the case, and you would hope that the Packers also are maybe smart enough to see out here right now that, hey, it's not all perfect, and how much better than Matt LaFleur are you going to get at this point in time? So the other one out there that's interesting too is like, it seems like the way people are talking about Mike Tomlin, it's almost a foregone conclusion that it's going to be TV for a little bit. Like, are you surprised by that at all?
No, because again, it would cost you to get Mike Tomlin because he resigned. There's 2 years left on his deal, so there would be compensation. He still has the rights of the Steelers. So it's not surprising to me unless somebody wants him that bad that they're willing to give up draft picks for him, which certainly could happen. But it does seem like he is going to take a breath, take a beat, and come back again. He's only 53 years old. He was the longest tenured, obviously he and Harbaugh with the same team. But he's not that old, so he's got plenty left in him.
So I think obviously those are big names to watch in the head coaching market. I think what's steadily becoming one of the most entertaining races out there, and one that could be potentially the most impactful on next year, is what happens with Mike McDaniel. I just saw the picture of him today in the Pittsburgh airport in a suit, apparently flying commercial to do all this. He was like at an airport gate dressed for the interview, swagged out of his mind per usual. But it's a reminder that Mike McDaniel is someone who comes with recent head coaching experience. He is an incredibly gifted offensive play caller. While it tailed off at the end, and part of that can be due to the Tua Tagovailoa head injury stuff that would be hard for a coach to control, he was responsible for a career revival for Tua Tagovailoa at the beginning of his tenure, coming off Brian Flores' time there. So the ability to connect with the quarterback and try and maximize his skill set, all stuff that's incredibly valuable, along with head coaching experience. Like, whether or not he winds up back in the head coaching chair is going to be one of the biggest impacts on the upcoming season, because if he doesn't, he's a Super Bowl caliber offensive coordinator for one of the rosters that we're talking about that's trying to enlist his services.
Without question, he is probably the biggest wild card to me on if he's going to be a head coach in this cycle, right? Because he's certainly, he's 42 years old. Again, a little bit quirky. Does a team want to go with him or bring back or bring in a brand new coordinator who's never coached before, or a guy, a Mike McCarthy, a Raheem Morris, a retread who's had some more experience as a head coach. That, to me, I agree, is going to be the interesting one, because boy, oh boy, if teams want to think of him in Detroit, right, with that talent on that offense of him as an O coordinator, he would just be coveted as an O coordinator. But being 42, showing some success in Miami, and there's still a number of teams that are looking for a head coach, it wouldn't shock me if he was hired in this cycle.
Yeah, I think that's the thing I keep coming back to, is like you look more and more around the candidate field, right? There's going to be some other names in here. Clint Kubiak is certainly one of the sexiest candidates out there. We still have to see what's going to happen with Brian Flores, who I know the Steelers requested to interview with a while back, but has the backdrop of the lawsuit with the NFL. Head coaching experience and premium offensive play calling are going to be something that's coveted by a lot of people. And Mike McDaniel, while it wasn't perfect in Miami, does check some boxes in a way that maybe can be excused away by some of the other circumstance there. So we'll keep an eye on that one as we keep going along. Plenty more to get to today as we proceed here on Golic and Golic. But coming up next, we'll get more reaction to the head coaching hiring cycle going on right now. Our guy Sal Paolantonio going to join us to talk about who could be next up as we head in the divisional round this weekend. But coming up next, ankles not having a great time in the association. We'll tell you about two of the biggest injuries in the league last night next on Golic and Golic. Welcome back in GG's from the all-name team in college basketball. We start off with SMU. How about Boopy Miller at the buzzer? Bong. Calls game as time expires. They get a 77-76 win at home. Miller took that full-court inbounds pass, sprints past the defender, takes the sliver, and makes it count here. Boopy at the buzzer sounds like a children's show in the makings. Go forth and prosper, young man, just as they did there. And we keep it moving. Patton Pinkins, because alliteration is fun, gets it at the buzzer, puts it up and back in for a 97-95 win for Ole Miss over number 21th ranked Georgia. Tightly contested contest, missed field goal by Marcus Millender with 10 seconds left on the clock, knots the game at 95 apiece before Pinkins gets it up at the buzzer there. No red before the shot leaves his hand. Great time there. Awesome. I mean, the names in college basketball right now, sensational. Forget talking about the freshman class. I want to talk about these guys, Mike Golic Jr. and Mike Golic Sr. It beats what we have to talk about in the NBA, unfortunately, which is bad ankles for two of the game's best players. We start with Cooper Flagg, the star rookie for the Dallas Mavericks. Injured here. You see the drive in this game. Peyton Watson, by the way, burgeoning star for the Nuggets in Jokic's absence. But he drives the lane. Flagg twists his ankle while defending. You see, limped off the court kind of gingerly there. Came back with like 2:30 left in the quarter and tried to play through it, but unfortunately just couldn't. They sat him down for the second half. And then this from Jalen Brunson here. He suffers a sprained ankle in the first quarter in their game against the Kings. Tough one for Mike Brown. The return out to Sacramento, light the beam, all the good memories there, gets the standing ovation. And then Jalen Brunson goes down early in this game, and the rest of the Knicks team, a complete no-show. I mean, Mike Brown lit those dudes up. Went after Karl Anthony Towns for lazy play, getting back after falling down on the ground. It was kind of a nightmare return there, but obviously the injuries first and foremost. The difficult part for the Dallas Mavericks, Dad, this is just a run it rains it pours situation, right?
Yeah.
You already got Kyrie Irving out for the year. Anthony Davis and the will he won't he on surgery has been in the news, and now Cooper Flagg here with the ankle, which thankfully won't be anything long term. I think he's doubtful for their game against the Jazz, but just kind of another sign of where this season's going for them. Yeah,
and that's one you keep him out until he's fully healthy. Again, as you mentioned, he tried to come back and play with a couple minutes to go in the half, then didn't come back out in the second half. Which listen, this team's not going to do anything this year. You're not going to mess around with his injury by any stretch. As far as Jalen Brunson, I mean, he's certainly had ankle issues. Missed 2 games in November with an ankle. In 24, he sat for a month with a sprained ankle as well. We don't know. We'll see how serious this one is. But, losing to an 11-30 Sacramento team, you're right. And Mike Brown's kind of homecoming there. But then, Mike Brown took off on this team. Said it was probably the worst game they played all year. And listen, if you're a player – right, there's 82 games, even in football, when we play a college schedule, an NFL schedule, 12 games, 17 games, you sit there talk about being up and playing every play and being there for the whole season, and it can be tough to do. An 82-game schedule, I think there's going to be clunkers like this. But the one thing a coach doesn't ever accept is lack of effort, right? There's one thing about X's and O's. If you're not running the right play, or if physically you don't do something right, or you get beat, which happens. Nobody plays a perfect game. But when there's a lack of effort, that's when a coach is really going to send off.
Yeah, and for this Knicks team, listen, as far as playing hard every night, they played for Tom Thibodeau last year. They're used to that portion of things. So Mike Brown, I think you also kind of know, hey, I can press these buttons because these guys are used to getting ground into the dirt. We've talked about it. Mike Brown's already made more use of the bench and some young guys than the prior administration probably would have here. Injuries have been a part of the equation. Josh Hart had just come back, but we were 3-5 with him out there. So it's one of those things that becomes interesting. They're still in second place in the Eastern Conference. Yeah. We still largely look at it as a great opportunity for them, even though the Detroit Pistons are real and spectacular, fully bought in, fully Pistons pilled after what I've seen from them for a lot of this season. It does make you wonder, though, all right, the Knicks were one of those teams always rumored for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis is out here booing and thumbs down in the home crowd. I get we kind of threw cold water on that, but you wonder if maybe the Knicks hitting a little bit of a downturn, maybe wondering about the capabilities of the roster on the high end. Maybe you explore that in the lead up to the deadline and give us some fireworks. Maybe I'm just trying to write fan fiction for my own entertainment.
Yeah, still, definitely one of the favorites for the conference. I mean, they were 4-6 in their last 10, and still they're just 4 games back from Detroit. Quite honestly, the surprising team to me is the Celtics. No Jason Tatum. They're 4.5 games out. They're in third place in the conference, unlike the Pacers, who obviously lost Turner to the Bucks and Halliburton for the year with the injury at the end of last year. Have 9 wins. They have completely been decimated. But I'm more surprised by the Celtics. I think the Knicks are going to be fine. I think eventually they'll rise to the top, especially when you get into series games in the playoffs, but definitely going through a lull now.
Yep, a little bit, but like you said, and it's a good reminder, January, it's the dog days right now for these guys, so we'll see how they respond after getting put on blast by Mike Brown, and hopefully Jalen Brunson a speedy recovery on that ankles. Speaking of speedy, want to speed our way to 5:30 Eastern. Watch our guy Stan Verrett on Countdown Live, presented by Prime. It's every day following us here on FanDuel Sports Network. Going to give you plenty of great insight as you head into a night of incredible basketball, hockey, whatever you're watching. Stan's going to have you ready to go for that. Don't you worry. So stick around here right after us each and every day. Coming up next, though, we got to look ahead to this weekend. An awesome rematch from last year's postseason as the Broncos host the Bills. We'll talk to Jim Kelly about what Josh Allen has to do to pull it off for the folks in Buffalo next. It's Golic and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr. Hoping to talk to the Hall of Famer Jim Kelly in just a couple of minutes here about what the Buffalo Bills have in store this weekend. But part of the Bills' narrative going into the postseason is, hey, if not now, when? Because as we know, no Lamar Jackson, no Joe Burrow, and of course, the lid on the AFC for almost everyone, Patrick Mahomes of the Chiefs, sitting there with the 9th overall pick and a quarterback that had torn his knee up towards the end of the season. Interesting update on that, courtesy of Omar Ruiz at the NFL Network. Patrick Mahomes says rehab is going great, and doctors have to hold him back from wanting to push harder. He said his goal is to try and get ready for week 1 and play without restrictions. And he said his doctors said it's possible, but a long way to go. So probably what we expected to hear, considering it's Patrick Mahomes. We know what an insatiable competitor he is, but good news to hear that we're hearing that's at least a possibility for NFL fans at large, although maybe 99% of them outside of Kansas City hate his guts because he makes their favorite team sad. But for the benefit of football at large, more Patrick Mahomes is good. And I'm not surprised to hear that he's attacking rehab this way, the same way he's attacked everything else.
Yeah, I mean, listen. He's not the only one. All players attack rehab, right? I mean, all players want to come back. It's going to be tough, Mike. Again, he hurt his knee on December 14th, had surgery, I think the next day or the day after, went for a second opinion and had the surgery like right away. So you're basically talking the second week of September, when the season is just starting, is 9 months. And we keep talking about Adrian Peterson, who came back from an ACL 9 months as a running back, which it was just amazing. Now, Patrick Mahomes certainly likes to be on the move as well. And of course, you're going to give yourself the goal. And it can be somewhat realistic. 9 months, it's been done before. So it's not like it's 6 months and you're like, yeah, I'm going to be there, when everybody knows you're not, right? So it is realistic. And he is optimistic, but boy, oh boy, I mean, they're going to be ready with somebody else, because that's 9 months to playing, let alone, not that he needs the practice, but as with time to kind of ramp up to the season as well while you're still rehabbing.
I kind of love that Mahomes is coming out with this in the middle of the playoffs, right? Like, he's home and ticked off, because usually this time of year he's getting ready for another march to the Super Bowl, and trying to send that cold shiver down the spine of everyone, like, hey, enjoy this. I will be back soon. Has to give everyone a little bit of pause, and does heighten the sense of urgency. Like, as we talk about Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, man, for all these guys, like you said, attack rehab, Josh Allen, it feels like is going to be like one of those hockey players that after the season has to have like 3 procedures based on what we've seen from his body through this run. Let me ask you this, Dad, because I saw Chris Long bring up this point with Fitz and Wit on their podcast. How much confidence should Buffalo take into this from last year? These two teams met in the postseason last year in the AFC wildcard round, and Buffalo put it on the Denver Broncos. Like, how much of the Broncos changed? You're getting ready to call this game here, so you're looking into these guys' seasons, the backdrop of all this. Like, how much of the Broncos changed between then and now, and how much of the Bills changed on the other side that could make this different?
Well, I mean, last year, Josh Allen was the MVP, but you know who was the defensive MVP? Patrick Surtain, their DB.
Right.
They led the league in sacks last year, just like Denver did, just like Denver leads the league in sacks this year. Bo Nix, a second-year player, so certainly, obviously, another year in the books for him, which certainly helps, but still, 11 interceptions on the year. Certainly there can be some comparisons. The big thing, Buffalo rushed for 210 yards in that game. So that was they controlled the ball with the run. And that's what we sit there and think of what teams can do against Buffalo. Like Jacksonville ran for 154 games in their loss to Buffalo in the wild card last week. There's a stat out there of beating the top 2 rush defense teams, and they beat Jacksonville. Denver's number 2 against the run. Could they beat them? But again, they gave up 154 yards on the ground. So it's not like they stopped the run. But certainly there's something about that game, and they smoked them 31-7. So, yeah, I guarantee you Sean Payton will be watching that game. There's a lot of the same players on that team from this game. So, yeah, I could certainly see there being the history of that game, though Denver's going to try and put it out of their mind, say, no, this is a new year. We're a better team. But the defense, was excellent last year and is excellent this year. And last year, Buffalo put up 31 on them.
I was just going to say, looking at the rushing attack specifically, because that's one thing that's also aged well for Buffalo this year, one of the best rushing teams in the NFL. The Broncos defense last year, second in the NFL in terms of yards per carry allowed on defense at just 3.9. Similar to the position they're in right now, where they're one of the best run defenses in football. I do think, for me, the big difference in this is going to be Josh Allen. Like we saw going towards the end of the regular season, right? The foot injury, like that was not the same guy in so many ways as a scrambler. And then you get the knee that pops up in this last game against Jacksonville, albeit in the win. Like can you continue to sustain through that, as the receiving core, especially for Buffalo this year, has failed to take the next step forward in the way that they hoped in the world post Stephon Diggs after last year? So that's the part that concerns me most against this team. And I guess the other side is, like, to your point, Bo Nix is in year 2. How much better or worse or indifferent is he compared to the guy that you saw last year in this offense overall, going up against the Buffalo defense that we know is even worse against the run this year in trying to defend that?
But they're good against the pass. They definitely play well against the pass. They definitely give up yards to a scrambling quarterback, and I believe Bo Nix has run the ball like 83 times this year. So he can do maybe about more damage with his legs and the running game than the passing game. If you put the passing game on his shoulder, certainly he's grown. He's got Sean Payton as a coach. He started out rough his rookie year, finished up stronger, and certainly hit a lull a bit this year in his sophomore year, especially with the turnovers. So again, kind of like Houston, you don't want to put the game on C.J. Stroud's shoulders. Maybe at this point, maybe you don't want to put the game on Bo Nix's arm. You'd like him to run the ball or the running attack and let that defense make it a rock fight.
All right, for more on what the Bills can do this weekend, let's talk to the Hall of Famer, Jim Kelly, kind enough to join us now, longtime Buffalo Bills quarterback, giving us some time here and obviously rocking the Canes colors heading into Monday night. Jim, good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm down at my lodge and pretty much almost snowed in. We had a nice little 7-8 inch blizzard here a few hours ago, and I had to try to drive in it, but I got here, so we're all good now.
Listen, we know you're Kane. I played against you when I was a freshman at Notre Dame, and you were a senior at Miami. You guys blew our doors off in Miami. Obviously, you're rooting for Miami, but what kind of game do you expect? This Indiana team is tough.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because as of, before, I wasn't sure how good Indiana was, but watching how they just played, I was amazed, to be honest with you. It's gonna be a battle. I think Miami's got their work cut out for them. It's gonna be interesting to see how it goes. And I'm heading down, so I'm leaving on Sunday. I'm staying for a week, and then I had a golf tournament, 50-cent golf tournament to go to after that.
Nice.
So I'm gonna enjoy the weather because here in Buffalo, I think in the next couple of days it's supposed to be down around 0. So it's going to be nice and chilly, so I'll be down south.
Good reason to stay indoors then and watch the Bills this weekend, as you got Miami to look forward to on Monday and Buffalo this weekend. And we were just talking, Jim, for Josh Allen, what a performance, gutty in that win against Jacksonville this last weekend. With how banged up he is, can he summon that again and be the difference maker against this Broncos defense?
Well, here's the thing. You guys know that when it comes to playoffs, everybody's going to be banged up. I mean, nobody's going to be 100% healthy anyways, but last game he took a beating. There's no doubt about it. But he's one tough sucker, so he'll be fine. He'll just have to, a good hot tub, good couple days of jacuzzi, and good couple good rub downs, and he'll be ready to go. But there's no doubt that, and Mike knows this. I mean, you guys know it, that once you get into the playoffs, everybody's banged up.
This is a Buffalo team who, for the last 5 playoffs, have lost to Kansas City. Kansas City's not in the picture. Everybody's saying this is Buffalo's time. How much longer do you think that window is open for Buffalo?
Well, you never know. The only thing that I see is all the injuries. And one of the things that, most of the teams that have gotten this far or even further on have been pretty healthy, but we've lost a couple guys. We're down to, I think, 3 or 4 wide receivers now. So right now, what we have to really focus on is probably that running game. Try to keep some of the pressure off Josh, and he doesn't have to go and try to win it himself. I mean, that's what a lot of people think anyways, that he's going to have to do that. But the bottom line, for us, our defense has got to play well. Our running game got to go, and we got to get the ball out of Josh's hand quicker. We can't afford to have him do no deep drops all the time. And as you know, Mike, when you're rushing that quarterback, you're playing on defense. You know the depth of every quarterback you play against. You know it's between 9 and 11 yards, and you're going to push it. And what you're going to try to do is get him to step up into the pocket, because as we all know, once he gets outside that pocket, he can do anything. He's looking, number one, he's looking for that big play with a run that he always does. But more importantly, what we have to do right now is find out receiving quick enough that he doesn't have to hold on to the football and take some of them hits.
We've seen this postseason a lot of coaches, longtime coaches let go. John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin most recently, out of their organizations. We talked about the opportunity for Buffalo. If this doesn't get done, if they go home this weekend, is Sean McDermott's job in danger? It appears that we have lost Jim. So hopefully he is safe amidst the blizzard conditions.
Yeah.
That was my first thought.
Yeah,
so, we'll be interested
storm.
to see.
The storm going on
see,
in Buffalo.
We'll see if it got him there. By the way, sign up. We didn't get a chance to tell him. Jim Kelly's got a great football camp coming up June 28th to July 2nd. 2 camps on the Bills practice fields for boys and girls ages 8 to 13. More information and to register for that, check out jimkellyfootballcamp.com and go learn from one of the best in that situation. We appreciate Jim's time and hope he's staying safe in the storm. All right, coming up next, we get to ring in the new year with that announcement from yesterday. Dante Moore back for one more year. What's the larger ripple effect for college football? Welcome back. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr. here on Golic and Golic. We have unearthed Jim Kelly in the midst of the snowstorm here, and delighted to bring him back now, talk a little more Bills football. He had time in the midst of that to change hats even, supporting both squads going into this weekend. So, Jim, before we lost you there, I was going to ask you the question. Obviously, a different pressure that Dad mentioned with Patrick Mahomes out of the postseason, the opportunity here. We've seen so many big-time coaches let go this offseason. If the Bills fall short, is Sean McDermott's job in danger going into this offseason?
I don't think so. I mean, I think he does a good job. I mean, you're only as good as we all well know as the people around you. And I know that with all the coaching vacancies that are out there now, oh my gosh, it's going to be interesting to see who they do bring in. I mean, of course, living here in Buffalo, you hear a lot about Joe Brady's going to be interviewed once the season's over and things like that. So, no, I don't think so. I think Sean's has done a pretty good job. He's got Josh Allen, which is huge. But when you have as many injuries as we have, it's not his fault, as you both know. I mean, you're only as good as the players you have around you. And if you have all these injuries at key positions for the Buffalo Bills right now, keeping number 17 healthy is the main thing.
Yeah, and you're as successful as the players around you. You went to the Super Bowl 4 times, didn't win it, but still went. I still say I'd rather go and lose than never go at all, which I never did. Yeah. I never did go. So what is that like when you the Super Bowl being separate, when you win the AFC, when you earn your trip to the Super Bowl like the Bills are trying to do this year?
You know what? For us back in the day, that was our goal. I mean, we knew we had a very good team from 1988 on. We knew, as a matter of fact, we knew that the guys that we had on this team, we were a young team. We knew that we're going to be battling each and every time. But also, as you guys know, that and especially in the AFC East, we knew that we had to battle against Dan Marino, Don Shula, each and every year, not just twice, but sometimes 3 times. But once we got to the playoffs, we knew we had a good opportunity, especially when we knew we had Bills Mafia in our background, even though the Bills are doing what we did. I think it was 1993 when we had to go on the road and win some games, away from that rich stadium, or what is called Highmark Stadium now. But it's not easy. It's a matter of you have to do it. But from my standpoint, as I looked at it from a player that's played, the game before, just like you guys have, I don't really think there's any dominant teams in the NFL this year. I think there's good teams, but there's not that one dominant team that you think is going to, you're going to have to play your best game in order to beat them. I mean, I thought Jacksonville was a good team. I didn't think they were a dominant team, but they were hot at the right time. Now you got Denver in the same situation as Jacksonville. But I think the team right now besides the Buffalo Bills, I think it was the Houston Texans. I think their defense is coming on. They are looking hot. If I had to pick one team to face the Buffalo Bills, it probably would be the Houston Texans right now. But, hey, as we all know, going into the playoffs, you never know what's going to happen. Any given day, one play could be the difference between winning and losing.
No question, and I'm with you. Not many people wanting to see that Texans defense right now. They got a lot of plays that go towards winning on that side of the football. Hey, Jim, we mentioned we know you got your camp coming up this summer. Again, people can check out and register for that at jimkellyfootballcamp.com. What can young people expect coming out to camp here this year?
Well, 38 years. This is a 38th year of doing it. And I'm telling you what, I mean, my golf term is 39 years. I mean, you think about 15 years ago, you hope you made 20 or 25 at the most, and that would be a wow. But what we do would not only teach the fundamentals to the young kids, but more importantly for me, the world that we live in today is making sure kids understand how important it is to do the right thing, hang out with the right people. One of the things that I stress more than anything, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Your future's not very bright if you hang out with the wrong kids. So you be that difference maker around your friends, making sure you pick the right kids to hang out with. And you know what? As we all know, it starts at home with the parents. So hopefully they've gotten the message, which one of the good things about it, we do a chalk talk each and every day. And that was one of the things that I just talk more importantly than anybody. And I also, the parents at times could sit in those chalk talks and listen to what I have to say and a couple other players. So I've been very blessed to be able to do it. Here I am, as I said before, 38 years of doing it. I love it. I mean, I enjoyed getting out there and playing ball with kids. I can still throw it. I can maybe maximum now about 45, 50 yards, maybe. But I'll tell you one thing. After that 4-day camp, my arm needs iced on each and every day.
I have no doubt about it. I'm getting sore just thinking about it here. Again, jimkellyfootballcamp.com is where you can register to be a part of this. Jim, we appreciate the time. Enjoy the game this weekend. Enjoy the game coming up Monday night, and travel safe down to Miami.
Thank you, guys. It's always good seeing both of you. God bless you. I love you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it, bud.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Dad, he mentioned the Houston Texans, so why don't we talk about one of the deep dives that we're going to do again in the lead up to the divisional round. Going to talk individually about a lot of the games that we'll see before we pick them tomorrow. And the Patriots have an interesting and tall task coming to town in Foxborough. That Texans defense that last time on Dragon Ball Z may have sent Aaron Rodgers into an early retirement on Monday Night Football, now heads there to try and see if they can rattle the MVP candidate Drake Maye here. What does Drake Maye have to do specifically against the defense that might be the best in the NFL to get them a win and move them on?
Well, it's not rocket science. If they can get a running game going at all, to not just let that front four tee off. Again, the rotation, the defensive line rotation is like 5-6 deep for the Texans. A lot of times starting a series, Danielle Hunter or Will Anderson will not be on the field. They'll come in on a second and long or a third down passing situation. So they are not playing every snap. So their legs are fresher. And oh, by the way, they're stout on every level of that defense. And really, the Patriots rely on the arm of Drake Maye, some of the run game, and then Stephon Diggs and Hunter Henry are by far the two top receivers. Mac Hollins has come in and done a nice job as well. But, you've got to find somebody else as well. Who else can step up? But Houston, again, they don't disguise a lot. They just line up. It does remind me of my buddy Ryan years in Philadelphia, where we just lined up and said, we're going to beat you. Our guys, not me in particular, but our guys on defense are just going to beat your guys one-on-one. Our corners are going to cover your receivers. Our DNs are going to beat your tackles. Our linebackers are going to get to the ball, and we're just going to beat you. And that's what Houston does. They just line up and they beat you. It's going to be a lot of pressure on Drake Maye.
I think that's the most exciting matchup because it feels like good on good in the case of the Texans defense. Great on very good. The Patriots offense has at times looked like it can really hum. We know the knock on lesser competition, but the matchup that probably decides the game is going to be on the other side of the football, right? And big news right now, Nico Collins still going to be in, I believe, the concussion protocol this week there, as was Patriots cornerback Christian Gonzalez, although I saw, courtesy of Mike Reese, that he was out at practice, not in a red non-contact jersey. So I think as long as he clears the protocol, he's going to probably be good. But Dad, for the Texans, markedly better run defense than the one they faced with the Pittsburgh Steelers and ran all over on that game on Monday night. And so if you've got that and now you're forcing them to drop back a little bit more, what does this passing game turn into if Nico Collins isn't out there against a very good Patriots defense?
Well, understand, we just put up the graphic of the Texans defense giving up just a little over 17 points a game. And New England just gives up a little over 18 points a game. They're not that far behind, and this Texans offense is not very explosive. C.J. Stroud can't turn the ball over like he has, and if you don't have Nico Collins, I mean, he is such a monster part of your attack without question. Nico Collins has done a great job. Christian Kirk had a phenomenal game last week, once Nico Collins went out, but he is such a go-to guy. Is it Kirk that steps up again? Dalton Schultz obviously had a good year, but Stroud's got to hang on to the ball. He can't turn it over. I mean, turnovers kill you anyway, change possessions, and as you get deeper into the playoffs, they hurt you even more. So we keep talking about the Houston defense. This New England defense is pretty good against really a not very explosive Houston offense.
No, and I think that becomes the thing I worry about the most is like you mentioned, Christian Kirk, Jaden Higgins. There's a lot of good guys that Houston has there, but none of them had to shoulder the load the way Nico Collins has. And if Woody Marks isn't popping off and having another 100-plus yard game in there, all of a sudden does that start to eat away at it? And again, I say, I didn't recognize that version of C.J. Stroud that we got on Monday night. I'd imagine that was more of a blip on the radar than a trend, I hope. But at the same time, the Patriots got to be licking their chops on defense, saying, hey, if we can just get close to him and rattle him, he's going to give us opportunities to take the football away. And if you give that group added opportunities against that defense, I think Drake Maye, especially with his legs, far more capable of maybe making it a bit more complicated for that Texans pass rush than Aaron Rodgers was at 41 years old. So going to be very excited to watch that one, as I know a lot of people are, to finally get to see if the Patriots can get a good win. Coming up next, big scandal continues to rock college basketball. We'll give you the latest here next on Golic and Golic. Hour number 2, Mike Golic Jr. and Sr. here. Ryan Ruocco up here in just a little bit. Talk a little NBA, a little women's college hoops as that world keeps spinning round and round. But before we get to that, let's get you caught up on what you've missed so far here with our 3-point stance. Big news for Major League Baseball fans and fans of America in sports. Major League Baseball announced Thursday that Clayton Kershaw has committed to pitch for Team USA in the upcoming World Baseball Classic, the international tournament that'll serve as the final send-off for the eventual Hall of Famer. The World Baseball Classic begins on March 4th. Remember, Clayton Kershaw got to ride off into the sunset as only he could with the Dodgers, winning a World Series in his final season on the mound. Jonathan Kuminga, meanwhile, might be on the move. On the first day that he became eligible to get moved, the fifth-year forward demanded a trade from the Golden State Warriors, league sources told ESPN. Now, Kuminga could not be traded until Thursday, according to the terms of the contract that he signed this summer. As we know, the trade deadline coming up February 5th. Some things had been stirring in Golden State for a while. Interesting to see that come to a head now. And the breaking news out of college basketball, point-shaving scheme involving more than 39 players on 17 D1 teams, resulting in dozens of games in the previous 2 seasons being fixed by a gambling ring that included a former NBA player. This, according to a federal indictment unsealed on Thursday in the East District of Pennsylvania. So 20 of the 26 defendants played college basketball during the 23-24 season or 24-25 season, according to the indictment. It's been kind of an ongoing leak of this stuff in the public in terms of the gambling rings that have affected college athletics overall. But basketball really seems to have been at the heart of this. Does the scope for you change the urgency with which the NCAA and the other governing bodies around the sport have to deal with this problem?
Oh, yes, because obviously the two biggest college sports are men's basketball and football. And football, you would now getting to people in point shaving, certainly, it's been done. But in football can be a little more difficult to do with all the people that are involved. In basketball, you have fewer players on the court and certainly more that can have an effect on the game. Especially, there's point shaving. There's the individual betting that you can do as well that we've seen issues with. But I think it rears its ugly head more in basketball than any other sport.
It certainly does. And that point you made about one player being able to affect, it's kind of at the heart of this, right? Like when you look at the way that this went down here. So again, according to the 70-page document, which obviously I didn't read, but we're going to cliff notes here. Around September 22nd, the ring was originally focused on fixing Chinese Basketball Association games. According to the indictment, Hennon, who was one of the people indicted into this, texted a co-conspirator and said, "Nothing is guaranteed in this world but death, taxes, and Chinese basketball," which is one of the funniest sentences I have read in quite some time. Like, in the middle of all this, we have to stop and acknowledge. I think I saw our buddy Jeff Schwartz tweet that if you're betting $200,000 on Chinese basketball, you should basically walk into the FBI in handcuffs, because that's the other thing that jumped out about this. A lot of this centered on smaller school basketball players who weren't going to be the recipients of major NIL contracts, and trying to prey on the fact that if you kick them tens of thousands of dollars, it's enough to make them move the needle in games that maybe they only care so much about. The problem is we're seeing some of these games where schools like North Carolina A&T are playing, and you've got almost $500,000 being bet on this. Like, I don't know at what point in time you have the temerity, the unmitigated gall to say, yeah, I'm going to put $450,000+ down on the games that we're showing up here and expect that not to be noticed by somebody in this process. Maybe I'm not into the gambling fields enough to know that those amounts of dollars change hands all the time on this stuff, but it seems unlikely.
And we've seen players get caught up in the gambling of red flags being pulled up by the betting services. Hell, you don't need a betting service to pull up a red flag when that much is being bet on those teams. That's crazy. Now, the question is going to be, what can you do? Is there ever enough? There's never going to be fully enough to stop it. And, obviously, what happens to you if you get caught? This is obviously legal, not just about eligibility. This is going in front of with lawyers and possibly a court of law. But what do you do about it? How can you stop this, or at least, put a finger in the dam a little bit?
You know what? We can ask that question of someone far smarter than the two of us. Ryan Ruocco, our next guest, kind enough to join us now, play-by-play commentator for ESPN, covering the NBA, the W, the women, everything, you name it. Women's college basketball coming up, and a big one that we can get to tonight, Ryan, as we always appreciate your time, man. But let's start there. I mean, you cover this sport and have covered sports in college for a while. Yet another indictment about gambling at the college basketball level here. Is there more that the NCAA can help so that students aren't put in this kind of position where this becomes possible?
It's a great question, Mike, and good to talk with both you guys. I'm sure there is. I don't know what those solutions are yet, but I think clearly it needs to be a priority to get to them. And I think one of the hopes is that what's become clear is if you're doing this kind of thing, like, you're going to get caught. Like the technology to catch people and the and just like the way the systems are set up seem stronger than ever in that regard, just as someone on the outside looking in. So hopefully that in itself is going to deter future people from doing so. But I obviously think it's a big enough issue that all sports bodies need to continue to think about ways that they can, try and creatively keep this from happening.
So another big picture topic before we get on the court, both in women's college basketball and the NBA, you and the great Rebecca Lobo call the WNBA games, and they are entangled in a hell of a CBA negotiation, and the women have never had as much leverage as now, or as believe they think they do right now. How do you think this ends up? Do you think we're missing basketball time when the season's supposed to start?
I don't, Mike. I really don't. I think that, I think that what we've seen up until this point is a lot of negotiation tactics. It's a lot of posturing, and it's understandable. That's what happens in labor negotiations. We've all covered them in all sports, right? And seen, how that is usually part of the playbook. I think that it would be really short-sighted from all parties to miss games at this point when your sport has never had more momentum than it does right now. And I think there are enough players who have said that, as well as, people in the league, that it just makes me think, there will be, a way to bridge the gap without missing games. I think that, for starters, what's on the table from my perspective is already pretty good. I want the players to get as much as they possibly can. And they should obviously keep negotiating for that. But it would be hard for me to look at the deal that's on the table, which is going to be somewhere between 4 to 5x what the salary cap was last year, and say that is not good enough to justify playing games under that agreement, right? I think there's probably a lot of players in the league that once you get closer to the start of the season are going to look at it and say, wait, do I really want to sit out rather than make $600,000, $700,000, $800,000? As a starter, but not a star, right? And then for the stars, a lot more. Plus, the stars in this league, they need the W to then not only, for their salary, but for the billboard it creates for them, the platform it creates for them, for all their other businesses. And so, Caitlin Clark's value off the court is obviously dependent upon her playing on the court. And, and the same goes for Asia Wilson and Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu and any other players who can make sizable money off the court. They need to be playing. And the WNBA is the league which gives them, the brightest stage. So I think that it just makes too much sense to come to an agreement. I think the deal on the table now is a really good deal already for the players. I hope they get more. I think they should get more. I'm sure they'll find a way to get more. But to act like, that this, bridge, can't be crossed and that we won't have basketball, I can't foresee that happening. It would be, I think, a catastrophic mistake if it did.
So from not wanting to miss games to games that you don't want to miss, Ryan going to be on the call for a banger tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. Second-ranked South Carolina, fourth-ranked Texas. As I see, I believe a pair of Gamecocks behind you on the bed there, Ryan. Is that the room decor that we're working with?
Right. Look at that. What do you think? I think it is. You know what's funny is I hadn't even fully realized it yesterday when I came into the room late at night after my flight. And I was FaceTiming with my 4-year-old daughter this morning, and she was like, "Daddy, are there chickens on the wall behind you?" And I was like, "You know what? I think there's some kind of poultry back there. You're right, babe." Yeah. It's going to be, well, first of all, Texas and South Carolina has become a really awesome women's basketball rivalry. It's crazy, but this is now the 6th straight meeting between these teams where they're both ranked in the top 5, which has never happened in the NCAA era. This is also the 6th meeting they have played in the last 369 days. They met in the SEC championship last year. They met in the Final Four last year. They played 2 times in the regular season last year. They played in the Players Era Championship game, which was a tournament out in Vegas earlier this year in the regular season, and now today as well. And they've all been like really exciting games, competitive games. You have stars on both sides. You have 2 great coaches in Vic Schaefer and Dawn Staley. It should be awesome. Plus the atmosphere in Columbia for women's basketball, the way they have just become a constant here and the way they support their Gamecocks. It's really fun. It's fun to watch. I think you can feel the environment on TV. And you have some intriguing stars who are going to be great future pros as well in this game, whether it's a Madison Booker, who has a great chance to be top 2 or 3 pick in the draft when she comes out after next year. She plays a lot, kind of like a Maya Moore, KD hybrid. The 35 jersey on Texas always makes me think of KD, the way she plays. Or on South Carolina, they have a transfer who led the nation in scoring last year. Tanaya Latson came over from Florida State, who's played really efficiently under Dawn Staley, who's great. Tessa Johnson, I think, is going to be a great pro when she gets there. They have some really talented bigs as well. There's a lot of talent. There's great coaching, and there's a great rivalry. So it's about as great a game as you could hope for, number 2 and number 3 in the country in mid-January.
And you go from women's college basketball to the NBA tomorrow night, a rematch, Cavs and 76ers. They played last night. My Cavaliers.
Your Cavaliers, that's right.
to 107. So they play Friday again in Philly. Philly's in the 5th slot, Cavs in the 7th slot. Can either of these teams, do you think, muster up enough to challenge the top of the conference?
I think so, guys. I don't know if they will do enough in the regular season to say end up the 1 seed. Detroit has created a little separation there. But I definitely think when you look at just the Eastern Conference playoffs in general, they're wide open. Even if Detroit wins the East, if they're the 1 seed, even if they have a margin of 7, 8, 9, 10 games, we haven't seen them win a playoff series in years, decades. So you're not gonna look at them and say like, oh, they're definitively going to the finals, right? The Knicks did it last year, going to the Eastern Conference Finals, going to a Game 6, but they're no guarantee to get over the hump. What happens with Boston if they get Tatum back, right? With how well they've played already. Cleveland has the talent. I'm a little concerned that Sam Merrill and Darius Garland both got hurt yesterday because Cleveland was just starting to, I think, show kind of the full breadth of their power. They've had some bad losses, but they've also had some great, impressive wins lately. And they need Darius Garland playing, at or close to his best, which he was starting to round into that form. Sam Merrill is essential to them as far as spacing the floor, the gravity that he pulls. So he re-injured the hand that kept him out for a month. I'm a little concerned about that for the Cavs. If they are healthy, they absolutely have the talent to be able to go to the finals in the East. There's no question. And maybe some of what they've gone through will help them. Philadelphia has that talent too. I think we all just wrote Philadelphia off because their health has been so wonky over the last couple of years, namely with Joel, that you feel like, all right, I can't rely on them at all. Understandably so. But if they're healthy, and they have been more healthy this season, they're really good. Edgecombe is a serious talent. Adding him with Maxey, the willingness that Paul George and Joel Embiid have had to play as complementary pieces to Maxey and let it be his team, I think is really encouraging. They have some other good depth pieces as well. If you told me Philly was going to the finals, I wouldn't laugh you out of the room. I'd say they absolutely have the talent too. So I think if you look at Cleveland, you look at Philly, you look at the Pistons and the Knicks, and then Boston, kind of like where could they end up? I think it's kind of a toss-up with all those teams. But obviously, health is always the biggest factor.
No question, but you're right. A wide open Eastern Conference race that feels like a lot of fun heading into this middle stretch of the season here. Guarantees, if you're watching ESPN's Family of Networks at 7 o'clock Eastern the next couple of nights, you're going to see Ryan Ruocco. Check out the great game between South Carolina and Texas coming up tonight on ESPN2. And then tomorrow, Cavs Sixers, 7 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. Ryan, always great catching up with you, man. We appreciate the time. Thanks, brother.
Always appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, Ryan.
Likewise, buddy. Good to see you. Coming up next, Dante Moore going to be keeping up the good work back in Eugene. What are the ripple effects for his return to college football? Next on Golic and Golic. Golic, you're on FanDuel Sports Network. College football ever-changing here. You see right now some big-time quarterbacks, some coming back to school, some heading to the NFL. One question mark as we get ready for Monday's national championship at the same time.
Joining us now to talk more about college football everything, Andy Staples, college football analyst from On3 Sports. Andy, we have obviously a national championship game to talk about, but there's a never-ending supply of news in college football. The latest being somewhat surprising, Dante Moore, projected to be the second pick of the draft, quarterback from Oregon, saying he's going back to Oregon, and Ty Simpson projected in the later part of the first round, saying he's going back to college. What are your thoughts on these two, starting with Dante Moore?
Well, Dante Moore, listen, would you want to be a Jet right now? I think that actually may have something to do with it. I'm only sort of joking on that, but the thing about Dante Moore that you need to remember is that he took a fairly unconventional path when he went to Oregon. He had, through his recruitment, because he's from Michigan, but he was actually going to go to Oregon. And then he flipped at the last minute to go to UCLA, presumably because there was more immediate playing time available at UCLA. So he plays for UCLA for a year. He does get thrust into the starting job, and it probably figures out he's not really ready for it yet. And so when he goes in the transfer portal, there were options where he could go start. Instead, he chose to sit behind Dylan Gabriel at Oregon because he felt like he'd be a better quarterback that way. And I think he's probably talked to some people. And look, obviously, Oregon is going to pay well for the starting quarterback. So Dante Moore is going to be made whole most of the way, I would think. And probably not exactly what you get if you were the second pick. It's not going to be that much. But he might feel, and he's probably talked to some former Oregon quarterbacks like Bo Nix, who went into the NFL at 25 as a 5-year college starter, and realize that the more college starts, high-level college starts you have, the better off you are potentially in the NFL, the more ready you are when you get there. And also, he does not have to be a New York Jet now. Ty Simpson, a little bit different. He's going to go to the NFL. You got the vibe that he wanted to go to the NFL all along, but he actually was pursued by Miami and Tennessee after he left Alabama, and they said, hey, we will pay you a ton of money to come play for us, to come start for us for one season, and probably more than he's going to make his rookie year in the NFL. And he looked at it and said, you know what? I do not want to tarnish my legacy at Alabama. I was a captain at Alabama. I want to be known as a former Alabama quarterback, not some guy who took a 1-year deal to go somewhere else. So I'm just going to go to the NFL and let the chips fall where they may. Now, it kind of works out because with Dante going back to school, that pushes Ty Simpson up where he might be going.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And I mistakenly said Ty Simpson going back. Ty Simpson going to the NFL with just 15 starts. Dante Moore, 20 starts. I said on the show yesterday that I think Ty Simpson's making a mistake going to the NFL, and Dante Moore's doing the right thing going back, getting more experience. And by the way, Dante Moore could be a Jet next year as well. I mean, he's safe from the Jets for 1 year. That is the issue, because if the Jets don't draft Ty Simpson number 2 and say, you know what, maybe we'll get somebody a little bit later and see what happens, they wouldn't have any qualms about going with a first-round QB next time. And it's interesting because the Ty Simpson other part of this is I'm not sure returning to Alabama was an option for Ty Simpson. They've got a young guy named Keelan Russell that they really, really like, who he may be the future at that position at Alabama. So it's kind of similar to last season where Jalen Milroe was leaving Alabama, and he was either going to go to the draft or the portal. He was not going to come back, even though he had another year of eligibility. One more before we get to the game. The powers in college football are going to meet Sunday in Miami to discuss the next round of expanding the playoffs. How much does expand? Really, it's up to the Big Ten and SEC. Big Ten eventually wants 24. They'd start at 16 like the SEC wants, as long as the SEC says we'll go to 24. Where do you see this ending up? I don't see the SEC ever putting in writing that they're going to go to 24. I think 24 is too many. I am a believer in perfect numbers for tournaments. Like the NCAA basketball tournament, the perfect number was 64. They should have left it there. They should contract it to 64 and never change it again, because that's the perfect number. 4 was too small. I like 12. I actually kind of like 12. And Mike, one of the options right now, if they can't come to an agreement, is this thing would just stay 12, at least for next year and maybe even a little bit longer. I would be perfectly fine with that. I think 12 is a fairly good number. The tournaments have been fun, especially after they tweaked the seeding this year. So I would be fine with that. 16 makes sense to me. Beyond 16 makes no sense. And I hope they don't go there.
It doesn't seem like anybody else wants to go past 16. It feels like basically the 10 conferences in Notre Dame, other than the Big Ten, would like to go to 16. The Big Ten is the one that wants to go up to 24. So I don't know if they're going to come to an agreement. They self-imposed a deadline of the 23rd, which is, middle of next week, to have an agreement in place for the 2026 season format. And if they can't come to one, it'll just be like it was this year. I have a feeling it'll wind up being like it was this year, unless the Big Ten relents and says, all right, fine, we'll do 16, and we'll just keep trying to convince you.
Do we see this as a larger problem with the Big Ten and SEC kind of running things and they can't seem to agree on things?
Well, I mean, the reason they're running things is the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. And so they sort of took power from everybody else over the last few years. And if they are going to be at odds on everything, it will be a problem. If they're going to stalemate on everything, it's going to be a problem. And, what's interesting about this is those of us who cover the sport are pretty convinced it's headed toward kind of a super league situation, which would require the teams of the Big Ten and the teams of the SEC to get together. I don't think the leadership of these leagues would do that. I don't think they want to work together. So I'll be very interested to see how all this shakes out over the next few years, because they do have to work together on the college football playoff. And so far, they've really not found a lot of common ground.
All right, we actually have one more game in the college football season, national championship game, number 10 Miami, and a home field against number 1 and undefeated Indiana. Indiana, 8.5-point favorite. I guess we have to ask it this way, since everybody except Miami family and friends are picking them. What does Miami have to do to win this game?
I actually picked Miami to cover, Mike. Not necessarily to win, but that 8.5 is a lot of freaking points. I had somebody email me, a listener to my show, and say, doesn't this feel like Georgia TCU all over again? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, do you understand the difference between the 2022 Georgia roster and any roster now? Like, nobody's that deep. It doesn't look like that. It's a different sport now. And Miami and Indiana are pretty comparably talented. I think we can look at Indiana, especially since Curt Cignetti got there, and just talk about how well coached they are and how they will attack you where you're weak, how they will punish you for mistakes. And that's all true. But if Miami plays the game it wants to play, which would be control the ball, run right down your throat, that duo play they love, risk averse in the passing game, get after the quarterback with Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, like, this game's going to be close. The game, they've only got one common opponent, and they both kind of played that common opponent the same way. It was Ohio State, and Indiana beats them 13-10 in the Big Ten title game. Miami beats them 24-14 in the Cotton Bowl, and they both kind of did the same thing against them, where it was, let's just try to control the ball. Let's run the ball as much as we can. Let's try to get movement, lean on them, break them as the game goes on. And I think they're both going to try to do that to one another. And the thing is, Miami is very talented up front. You have Francis Mauigoa, their right tackle, is one of the best offensive linemen in the country. We talked about Ruben Bain. He's a great edge rusher, but not just a speed guy off the edge. I mean, he can set an edge in the run game. You can move him down inside if you wanted to. I think, a lot of the NFL folks have talked about playing him down inside anyway. So this is going to be a hell of a matchup. I think this is going to be a great matchup in the trenches, and I think it's going to be a close game, and I don't know who's going to win.
Let's hope it's as entertaining as the first weekend of the NFL playoffs, which was incredibly entertaining. We can only hope this one ends this way as well. Andy Staples, college football analyst on 3 Sports. Appreciate the time. Enjoy the game.
Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right, coming up next, your pal, my pal, Sal Paolantonio comes by to tell us if the rest of the NFC East is quaking in their boots now that Harbaugh's in town. Golic and Golic getting you set for a big divisional round weekend in the NFL. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr. We had the Hall of Famer Jim Kelly on earlier to look ahead some of what we got coming up this weekend. And thought we'd bring in one of our favorites and one of the best to help finish it off. Sal Paolantonio, kind enough to join us now, national correspondent covering the NFL over at ESPN. Going to be at the Bills-Broncos game along with Dad this weekend. So excited to talk with you about that, Sal, and always appreciate your time. But I got to start with the NFC East. You're so synonymous with the Philadelphia Eagles and that division, and we got the big news coming in this morning. John Harbaugh going to be hired as the next head coach for the New York Giants. For this division, how worried should everyone else be? Like, how quickly can John Harbaugh, with the parts already there, have this team contending in the NFC East?
Well, it's so huge for me, Mike. First of all, I get to get up on exits 4 and just drive up the turnpike, make a left at 16W, go right to MetLife Stadium. A lot more home games for me. This is fantastic. The New York Giants needed to change the narrative. They have the most losses of any team in the last 5 years. And John Harbaugh changes the narrative. There's no question about that. He will bring a culture change to East Rutherford, New Jersey for the New York Giants. Now the second part of that is he's got to coach the quarterback. This is where he had problems in Baltimore. Couldn't find the right combination of offensive coaches to handle Lamar Jackson. Remember, before Lamar Jackson, 8-4 in the playoffs. With Lamar Jackson, 3-6. So he's got to have somebody who can coach Jaxson Dart. If you look at the overnight transformation of some of these NFL teams, you look at New England, you look at Denver, you look at Jacksonville, you look at Chicago. What do they all have in common? They had a coach who could handle the quarterback. In New England, Mike Vrabel brought in Josh McDaniels. They handled Drake Maye. In Denver, Sean Payton, dual role, culture change, and Coach Bo Nix. Ben Johnson, dual role, culture change, and Coach Caleb Williams. Liam Cohen, same thing in Jacksonville. Transformation of coaching the quarterback, and that's what John Harbaugh needs. He needs somebody who is going to call plays, design an offense for Jaxson Dart, and then meet him at the sideline with that Microsoft tablet, sit next to him on the bench, explain to Jaxson Dart what went wrong or what went right, and what they have to do next, because Harbaugh is not that guy. So this is a very important component of bringing John Harbaugh to New York.
So let's stay on the quarterback for a moment before we get to the playoffs. And in Philadelphia, they let go of Kevin Patullo, the offensive coordinator. For Jalen Hurts, who'll be going into his 7th year, he will be on his 6th different play caller. And while there are certainly questions about Jalen Hurts, how much is his development being hurt by the multitude of play callers?
Well, he's gone to 2 Super Bowls and won 1, Michael, so I don't know about his development being hurt. But he does complain about it. He does complain about it. Right before the game against San Francisco, he talked about it at his press conference. I think it's too late for that to be a crutch for Jalen Hurts. However, this is a very difficult situation that they put themselves in. Why? You need an offensive coordinator who can be with Jalen Hurts, who can get along with Nick Sirianni, who can bring some more imagination, creativity, and innovation to the offense. Let me give you an example. In the second half against San Francisco, Michael, Jalen Hurts was under center 7 times in the second half. Those were 7 straight run plays. That's not only the height and definition of predictability, that's really not a professional offense when you're going in against Robert Saleh in a wild card game. And the San Francisco defense, very depleted, as we know, with injuries, sniffed it out instantly. It's not a creative offense. It hasn't been under Kevin Patullo. For my money, I don't know why they waited 6-8 weeks to make this decision. It was painfully evident to everybody. And the fact that they did it 2 days, 3 days after losing the wild card round tells me that they had an idea they were going to do it. They pulled the trigger way too late. They probably could have saved the season if they had changed play callers and maybe given it to Nick Sirianni, maybe given it to Kevin Stoutland, but it was pretty clear a change needed to be made. Now, as for Jalen, Mike, boy, he's got to show up to the party. There were a lot of plays, especially on Monday Night Football against the Chargers, that he didn't make, or he made the wrong decision, had too many turnovers. Many, many instances where he needed to be better on the field, and that's not really solvable by a new offensive coordinator.
That just one of the problems for the offense. Are you buying Nick Sirianni downplaying the friction on the sidelines between him and A.J. Brown? Where does that relationship leave this offense?
Oh, man. I saw Buddy Ryan punch a coach on the sideline. I've seen some wild Come on, Michael. You know what goes on in Philly. That was actually in Houston. Yeah. So, listen, can A.J. Brown be on this roster next year? That's the most important question to answer. I don't know that he can. It may be better for a change of venue for A.J. Brown. It may be better for the team to move on. Now, Howie Roseman was asked about A.J. Brown today at the postmortem press conference at NovaCare, and he gave a rather lukewarm endorsement for A.J. Brown coming back. He said A.J. Brown's a great player, blah, blah, blah. It almost sounded like, Mike, that he was putting up a sign, an advertisement says, "This is a great player. Somebody take him off my hands."
All right, let's go to the actual playoffs, the teams that are playing. As we mentioned, you and I both covering the Bills at Denver this week. You have Josh Allen going in with foot, knee, and finger issues. They're going to have to pack along duct tape and chicken wire to go along with all the other equipment. How much can be put on his shoulders physically and realistically for this team to make a run?
Well, that Jacksonville defense is good. They are physical, downhill, tough defense, but Denver's defense is several notches better. They get after the quarterback better than anybody in the National Football League, and Josh Allen's going to have his work cut out for him in this football game. When you go on the road on a short week in the second round of the playoffs, the result is usually not good. But Josh Allen is the outlier. To me, the three best players in the NFL right now are Josh Allen, Puka Nacua, and Christian McCaffrey. All of them, in my opinion, can dominate a game, change the game. They are complete difference makers, as Merrill Hodge used to say to me on the matchup show. Difference maker. And Josh Allen, to me, is the number one difference maker. All you got to do is listen to Sean Payton, what he said about him this week. He turns a quarterback sneak into a 10-yard gain. It's tough to bring him down once he's on the run. He's got a howitzer for a right arm, and he's got a very good running back. And when they load up, Michael, two tight ends on the right side, and you'll see this a lot, and we show it in the matchup show and have shown it all year long. When the Buffalo Bills, like they did against Pittsburgh and they did against New England, both on the road, they load up those two tight ends on the right side and they run that counter play where their running back just puts his foot in the ground and goes the other way. I think Cook is the best at that in the league. It's very difficult to defend against a defense that likes to get downhill. Alignment and assignment football for Vance Joseph's defense in this game will be very important.
On the other side, Bo Nix in that offense, you mentioned the boost, obviously, and the great development from Sean Payton as a play caller. Has he made up enough ground from last year to this year to avoid a result like we saw last year where Buffalo was able to handle them pretty decisively in the wild card round?
Well, Mike, if you look at the trajectory of Denver's offense, it was like this at the beginning of the year. Then J.K. Dobbins got hurt, and they kind of leveled off. They were number one or in the top five pretty much for the first 2 months in the red zone, which is so important for a young quarterback. And his ability in late game to get out of the pocket, be on the run, be accurate with the football, I think is second to none in the National Football League. I think it's Maye, Allen, and Nix outside the pocket and being on the run and accurate with the football. I'm not talking about the great plays of Caleb Williams. I'm talking about this guy on schedule, rolling out and delivering the football on time and accurately. But in the last couple months, their red zone offense has leveled off. And I was there for the last game of the year against the Chargers. Chargers had a lot of second-team players on defense. Sean Payton started his whole first-team offense. They didn't score on offense. They were 0 for 3 in the red zone. So to me, in this game, and this was something that Sean Payton talked about, he said he got quote-unquote salty this week in practice. He had the first-team offense going against the first-team defense there in Englewood, Colorado at their practice facility, and he wanted to see that first-team offense perform against Vance Joseph's defense, especially in the red zone. And this will be the key to the game. Once they get down there, can they cash in and score touchdowns, because they're going to have to do that against Josh Allen.
It's interesting you say that against the Chargers. Both times Bo Nix has had the least amount of completions, 14 in a game. Both games were against the Chargers. So the Chargers kind of have the quarterback's number at least a little bit. Sal, overall, last question, who's the best team left in the playoffs?
Whoa, that's a good one. At first blush, you have to say Seattle, because Mike McDonald's defense is really buttoned up at all three levels, Mike. They attack the quarterback up the middle. They break down the pocket up the middle like they did to Brock Purdy in Week 18. They're very good on the back end. Obviously, the Achilles heel is Sam Darnold turning the ball over. Sam Darnold will have to make more plays in this game. He'll have to absolutely be much quicker in his processing and much more accurate with the football. Decisiveness and accuracy will be key, because I watched this Niners team, and I was around them this week. And even with all the injuries, they have a lot of confidence. Robert Saleh exudes confidence. He really does. And that defense is playing really way above their skis, considering all the injuries they have. And Shanahan came up with some terrific trick plays at critical moments. And I thought Brock Purdy, again, decisiveness and accuracy, very good. So even though Seattle may be the best team on paper and they are favored by more than a touchdown, the Niners are going to give them all that they can handle. I think in the AFC, right now, it has to be New England. Two things have happened in New England that are really interesting late in the year. One, Mike Vrabel has decided to make them the number one blitzing team in the league. It's not Denver. It's New England. Right now, the New England Patriots are number one blitzing team in the league. And the other thing is that Drake Maye's ability outside the pocket, number one in passer efficiency, number two in accuracy outside the pocket, throwing outside the numbers plus 20, number one in the National Football League. I said before, Josh McDaniels doing what he did with Drake Maye, that instant transformation. The design of their offense is intricate, but Drake Maye's athletic ability outside the pocket, and that's why when you look at Houston's defense, they were great against Pittsburgh last week. Why? They pinned Aaron Rodgers in the pocket. He couldn't get out, doesn't have the mobility. They rush they pin him in there. Drake Maye will get out of the pocket, and he will be very accurate on the run. I like New England in that game.
It's going to be very exciting, and I'm with you. The legs of Drake Maye have been huge for New England all season, and they're going to need him against that war machine they got in Houston. Sal, we appreciate the time. As always, safe travels out to the game this weekend. You and Dad enjoy yucking it up out there. We're looking forward to it.
Thanks, Hal.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al. Appreciate it. All right, from a big-time tilt in the NFL to an active rivalry powered by the active cash card in the NHL. We got Kings-Ducks coming our way here shortly, Dad. The Anaheim Ducks, the Los Angeles Kings here locally. For Anaheim, hot start to the season has leveled off a little bit lately. Leo Carlson, kind of the way it goes for them on offense, and unfortunately, he's stagnant after a great start to his season as well. So going to be interested to see if they can regain that form against this Los Angeles team that also looks a little lost right now.
Yeah, always a good rivalry when they're close, right? This is called the freeway face-off. just the down I-5 freeway. It's kind of like the Dodgers Angels freeway series in baseball, the freeway face-off. So fans can go, obviously, travel to both games. These are two teams that had some success. The Ducks or the Kings winning the Cup in 12 and 14, the Ducks winning it in 07. And remember that it used to be the Mighty Ducks, right? They started, I believe, in 93 before they've just become the Ducks now. But yeah, I always love the geographically close rivalries. I think there is definitely something to that.
Yeah, it certainly is there. And listen, two teams that are trying to establish momentum before we get a little break when everyone gets off to don their country's jerseys. Mentioned Carlson before, going to be doing that for Sweden. So maybe get a little bit boost from that, but want to try and get some upward momentum going there. Mentioned for the Kings, goals been hard to come by as well this year. One of 4 teams with 3 or fewer players scoring at least 10 goals. So hopefully this active rivalry can activate some of the goal scoring here and give everyone the ability to go out here and put pucks in nets, which usually my favorite axiom in sports is just get pucks towards the net. Hockey analysis can feel so simple sometimes, and that's always one of my favorite ones there. It's like, oh yeah, just throw pucks toward the net and good stuff's going to happen.
That is so true. You can't put the puck in the net if you don't throw it at the net, right? And God knows things happen in front of that net. I wish I would have loved to have been able to play hockey. I just couldn't skate, which is an important part. I played it one time in intramural hockey at Notre Dame at midnight after a lot of beer, and I went to swing at a puck. I was on defense. I went to swing at a puck, missed it, fell on the ground. The stick went in the air, caught some dude right under the eye and opened him up. He bled all over the ice.
Good. All right, strong hockey career for one Mike Golic Sr. there, aided by our friend alcohol. So, again, you mentioned the geographic nature of this rivalry here. We got Friday, Saturday action for these two teams. So I believe the game in L.A. Friday and in Anaheim Saturday. So looking forward to that one there as we keep things moving towards the end of our show here. I want to talk about a freeway action here. Let's take the freeway down to Bagel Town here for a very exciting, enriching 4th and Golic next on Golic and Golic. As we wrap it up here on Golic and Golic, we forge and look ahead to what you can do here at FanDuel Sports Network's great app, the game replays. Whenever you need them, NBA and NHL fans, when you miss live games, just check out the game replays as soon as the final whistle blows. Watch every highlight, every big moment, your choice of 5, 10, or 15-minute condensed games. Just download the FanDuel Sports Network app today. Make sure you're ready to go. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., ready to go to 4th and Golic and finish the day off here on the show. I'm hungry. I know you're always hungry, which means it's a great time to celebrate National Bagel Day here. Delightful treat, especially for those of us that hail from the Northeast, because as we know, New York bagels over everything here. When I think bagels, Dad, I am always reminded of the now incredibly antiquated rule back in the NCAA when I was in college that got done in 2014, where they were allowed to give you bagels, but the minute cream cheese, jelly, jam, any other smear came into play, it became an extra meal and thus an improper benefit. So the bagel rule, now being as old as it is, but already feeling like it was another lifetime ago, since these guys get paid and get fed every meal and all they want now, is just a reminder of how far we've come in what feels like such a short time.
You think about it, it's one of the dumbest, and the NCAA has done some dumb things, but having that as a rule, you think about it, it's one of the stupidest things ever. And whoever thought of that, and there had to be a group of people who went, harumph, that's illegal to put cream cheese and give it to them. They have to be the dumbest people on the face of the earth. And I'm not used to calling people dumb, but they're dumb. That's amazing to me. Now, a bagel for me, unlike the Pop-Tart, which I do not toast, I eat out of the package, I obviously toast a bagel without question. And I've put everything on a bagel. You can put everything on a bagel. One of the sweet things I do like on a bagel, Nutella. Like some Nutella on a bagel.
Oh, yeah. Nutella works well with everything here. I choose to, and this is why the NCAA rule hurt me so much. I love cream cheese more than I love most things, so not being able to slap that on a bagel legally really hurt my heart. Here to help my heart is what we've got coming next. All I know about the video we're about to be shown is that the young woman in this video is Lily Smith from Georgia, and the apparatus here that she is working with is 9 feet tall. I already know I'm not going to like this. The high beam scares the absolute hell out of me, the balance beam, whatever this is. So we have a 9-foot balance beam on a 52-story building. Of course it's Red Bull, by the way. Why is it always Red Bull on top of these damn buildings here? I don't love this at all. Wind, the elements, and her ankle already tape indicates that things have gone awry before and they could go awry again.
So I love watching the Olympics, and I love watching gymnastics in the Olympics. And I hide my eyes on the balance beam all the time. That piece of equipment, if you screw up on, looks like it could hurt so badly. And then again, she's 52 stories up.
All right, so is it bad that my first thought is also like, all right, she's 52 stories up, but she's not anywhere near the edge of that. Like, let's put some more skin in the game and put her near the edge of the building and then see how this goes.
Yeah, with no net. With no net. Yeah, I'm with you.
Jeez, what's wrong with us? We'll be back tomorrow on Golic and Golic, maybe. Thanks for watching. For more Golic and Golic clips, make sure you subscribe to the FanDuel Sports Network YouTube channel.